Once hailed the Queen of the Sea, the RMS Titanic has its place in maritime history, not just as the largest and most luxurious passenger ship afloat upon its launch in 1912, but also as the most infamous due to the infamy of its now legendary maiden voyage. Built at the Highland and Wolf shipyard in Belfast, the Titanic was commissioned by the White Star Line to be a direct competitor to the newest and most luxurious Atlantic liners. Designed to be unsinkable, with a number of watertight compartments along the length of her hull, construction of the Titanic was not without its difficulties. Work had to be delayed due to repairs being undertaken on her sister ship, the Olympic, necessitating parts from the Titanic being transferred to the other liner. The Titanic was designed to herald a new era in the cross-Atlantic travel, with previously unheard of luxuries available for its first-class passengers. They had access to various baths, a swimming pool, gymnasium, squash court, and even a barber's shop was aboard the vessel. For its maiden voyage in April 1912, the cost of a first-class ticket was £875 one way, or £64,000 in today's money. The Titanic departed Southampton on the 10th of April 1912, captained by the experienced Captain Edward J. Smith. She stopped first in Cherbourg, France, then Cobb, Ireland, to pick up more supplies and passengers before making her way out to the Atlantic on her maiden voyage to New York. The first part of the journey was uneventful, but that was to change at 11:40 p.m. on the night of 14th of April. Two lookouts spotted a large iceberg directly ahead of the ship, and despite the frantic orders to change course, the liner was not able to react in time, and just 30 seconds after the iceberg tore a gash in the starboard hull. This in turn popped rivets along the length of the hull, hastening the filling of the watertight compartments. Water rapidly filled the hull, and the vessel was doomed. It became rapidly apparent to the officers on board there was no chance of saving the ship, and at 12:45 a.m. the first of the lifeboats began to be lowered into the water. However, the first boats were barely left filled, as the passengers on board, believing the ship to be literally unsinkable, took some persuasion to abandon the large liner and head for the small wooden lifeboats. By 2 a.m, the fact that the Titanic was sinking became apparent to all. The stern had risen clean out of the water, exposing the propellers, and shortly afterwards, water reached the boat deck. The remaining passengers clung desperately to the top of the stern to prevent themselves from falling into the icy waters. But at 2:20 a.m, the bow and stern separated, with the bow sinking first and the stern following shortly afterwards. Captain Edward J. Smith, as well as some of the other crew members, remained on the ship, sparking was saying the captain goes down with the ship. The co-owner of Macy's department store, Isidore Strauss, remained on the ship along with his wife Ida. Isidore chose to let women and children board the lifeboats, outright refusing when a friend asked if Isidore wanted to join his wife in the lifeboat. He refused to make an exception while the women and children were still aboard. Ida, choosing to remain with her husband, also sacrificed her place on a lifeboat. The Strausses were represented by the elderly couple shown embracing as the ship sank in James Cameron's Titanic. Colonel John Jacob Astor, the richest first-class passenger aboard the Titanic, asked if he could accompany his pregnant wife, citing her delicate condition. When he was refused, instead of bribing or trying to force his way on board the lifeboat, he stepped back and aided the crew in guiding other passengers to the lifeboat. His son, born in August of the same year, was named after him. There are similar heartbreaking stories of people who died long before their time, such as the string band that remained behind on the ship and played music to help calm the evacuating passengers and prevent a stampede or a crush. Then there's Charles Johan, a baker who is solely famous for how he survived the disaster. As the ship was sinking, he raided the alcohol stores aboard the ship, drank the majority, if not all of it. Then, when both ends started sinking, he jumped into the water and survived long enough for the RMS Carpathia to rescue him and all the other survivors. Johan attributed his survival to the amount of whiskey he had imbibed. Of the 2,224 people aboard the ship, 711 survived. And due to the orders given on deck that they should be the first to leave, the vast majority of these first and second class women and children. Just 75 of the 462 third-class male passengers survived the sinking, with many families losing their sole breadwinner. There was a large charity drive for the survivors in the aftermath of the sinking. Much criticism of White Star Line followed the sinking, as it transpired that there were not enough lifeboats for all the passengers. But the Titanic had complied with the laws of the period that dictated the number of lifeboats based on tonnage, not passenger numbers. Two of the surviving passengers were also criticised. Sir Cosmo O. Duff Gordon, a Scottish aristocrat, and Joseph Bruce Ismay, the managing director of the White Star Line. When the ship started sinking and people were being headed to lifeboats, Sir Cosmo O. Duff Gordon took a place in lifeboat number 1, and was said to have bribed the crew not turn back and save the other survivors, despite the lifeboat only having 12 passengers aboard. Joseph Bruce Ismay, however, helped guide people towards the lifeboats, but as collapsible lifeboat C was being lowered, he took place in the lifeboat as it was half empty. Both men left the ship while there were women and children still on board. Both men were cleared of any wrongdoing, however their reputations were destroyed, as the act of them getting into the lifeboats while there were still women and children aboard was seen as cowardly. The ships that came to the aid of the Titanic were hailed as heroes by both the survivors and the public, with the captain and crew of RMS Carpathia being gifted a cup by the survivors. One ship, the Californian, was one of the last ships to arrive and was criticised for their slow response. This was due to the Californian's radio operator being off duty, and the crew mistakenly presuming the distress flares were. It emerged that the Californian had warned the Titanic of the risk of icebergs, which allegedly had been ignored. The wreck of the Titanic was found by Dr. Robert Ballard in 1985, and now, even over a century after its maiden voyage and tragic loss, the legend of the Titanic continues to hold the imagination of the world. On such hold came the form of James Cameron's Titanic. a love story / disaster movie that had followed a man from third class, Jack, and a woman from first class, Rose. The movie, of course, left out the historical accuracy of the fact that the two would have never met. I should also mention that I've never seen the Titanic, and I'm unlikely going to watch it, as I hardly see the point if I already know what's going to happen. There are some that believe upon repairing the Olympic and finishing the Titanic, swapped the names of the two ships and deliberately sunk the Olympic, having it sail under the Titanic's name in order to make an insurance claim. I seriously doubt that is true, considering back in 1912 they couldn't just track where an iceberg would be. They could guess, but I'm sure they would have found a safer way of sinking a ship and still made it look like an accident. And that's not taking the serial numbers into account, as all the artifacts and photos taken of records had the number 401 on them, the serial number of a Titanic. Personally, I find it incredibly disrespectful to go around spouting how a tragedy, which saw the death of over a third of the crew and passengers, was faked. And then there are also others who don't think the Titanic was a real ship, and the sinking was a fictional story made up for the James Cameron film. I have to say it's understandable, thinking it was a story he thought up in the mind of a director, as the Titanic did influence the disaster movie genre. However, the ship itself is real. There are companies that offer tours of wreckage, with one very notable company that had an unfortunate tragedy that saw the loss of 5 more lives. It's almost as if the sea and its terrifying depths are dangerous. It's great show that no matter how big your ship is or how powerful anything man-made is created, it's always Mother Nature who wins. I would like to apologise for any mispronunciations I may have made, be they of the names of people, places, or types of equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video through to the end. Please feel free to leave a like and a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be alerted whenever I upload a new video. Again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and or subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful time.